Okay, so I've got here the beginnings of our model for the Harry Seidler designed Thurlow House. Starting to come together, but still very basic at this stage. So what I'm going to do before I put in the next set of walls, I'm just going to check the references that have been set up before we look at putting in this wall there on the well, I was going to say the south side, but we don't actually. I think that's really the north side, but on the bottom of our model there. I've got a wall there already, but I want to then modify that and put in some other walls for the area where you have the opening and these windows over here. But again, just want to get the references organised a little bit better. So here you can see I've got a grid that I'm using to locate the outside of the wall. So I'm going to move this reference plane over to the inside and use it for that instead. It's an interiors project, and so it's going to be a useful option to have the reference plane there locating the interior face of that wall. And I'm just going to show you an easy way of moving that across. Using the Align tool, I can pick the inside edge of my wall there. You can see it's come up with the name there and highlighted that once I've clicked, and now I can click onto the reference plane and it will line up exactly with that face. And then I'm going to do the same with the other side. So I'm going to again choose the inside face of the wall on that side and then choose my reference plane. Now I've got this reference plane here locating the end of that wall, and we might end up having a grid there. Well, actually, so I'm going to have a grid there definitely for the end of this wall, or the face of this wall. Sort of check. Oh, that's 230. Okay, so we'll keep that thickness. So again, I'll do the same thing there. So I'm just going to pick that inside face of the wall there, and then my reference plane. So that's going to give you an idea about the Align tool. If you haven't been using that one very much, it can be really useful. And so going into the ground floor without my plan image there, you can see it's a bit clearer and I can tell exactly where the grid lines are. So I'm going to draw in some new grid lines now, just to give you a better idea again how grids are often set up. And so I'm going to set up a grid line going through the centre of my curtain wall there. And grids going in this direction usually have a letter as a reference rather than a number. So I can click into that number field now and put in, for example, A. On the Architecture tab. Yep. And then towards the end on the right. Yeah, so you just draw them like reference planes. So I'm going to click a point here to start a new one, and then come across to the left to place the second point. So I've just got A and B at the moment, and once I cancel, I can easily select those and adjust the length. We might add another one in before long for the end of that balcony, but worry about that when we get to that point. So the area I want to focus on now is this boundary wall here, where again I've got a wall coming across. I'm going to show you in 3D that at the moment it is at the full height of the building, so going up to the roof level. But if you have a look at this photo here, you can see that that wall is going to stop basically at the entry level, at the height of that entry, or the door, and then you've got a window above it, and you've got a couple of options there. You can use the window tool to put a window into that wall and have it cut that part of the wall away. But when you've got a situation like this where the window goes all the way across, I've just found it's easier if you put a curtain wall on top and have that wall stop at the bottom of the window. Because it gets a bit complicated. If you're cutting a hole that goes all the way through the from one side of the wall to the other, it's then a bit difficult to work with that wall. And that should also work well when we look at doing the entry, because we're going to use a curtain wall for that as well, and also for this section over here. So what we need to do first to get that set up is put in a level, but then I'll also need to show you an option that you have really with every wall. When you select any wall, you'll see that you have this option here, Edit Profile. Okay, so I'm going to spend a bit of time looking at that option. It's really useful when you need to have walls that have different shapes in elevation. So I'll just draw a wall off to the side to give you an idea how this works, and then I'll look at the steps you need to use. So I'm going to change that back to a basic wall. Okay, so I've just drawn a very plain wall over here, and I'm going to select it, go to Edit Profile, and then you can see I'll do something similar to what you'll need to do, which is to basically step it down. So I can have here a couple of lines drawn in. I'm going to trim this and finish it, and you can see there I've just cut a chunk out of that wall. So again, I can select it and then go back to either Edit Profile or Reset Profile to put it back to the way it was. Okay, so I'll just draw something different just to give you an idea how flexible it can be. So if you like deconstructed shapes, you can have virtually anything you want. You can put curves in. So you've got to select a wall, and then you'll see it'll give you the Edit Profile option on the back on your. I'll just press Escape if something's happened, and then just try selecting it again. So, yeah. Okay, so again, essentially what I'm doing is changing the shape of the wall in elevation, and I can put holes into the wall this way as well. So it's a really useful way of putting openings into walls. Okay, so it's an extremely useful option, but here we're just going to use it to give the wall a stepping height. Because again, if it's not clear, we've got this brick wall, which I'm assuming would continue underneath that walkway there and still be brick. Well, that's the way we'll do it initially anyway. And then the curtain walls will just fit in around that. Okay, so before I try to make that, to make my life easier, and this will make your life easier too, I'm going to put in another level. And so you can see here we've got ground floor, level 1, roof. And if you look in the ground floor view, you can see that section was cutting through horizontally. So I'm essentially working on this area now where we know we've got the stair there marked with the grids. So I'm going to draw a section that goes through vertically. So don't be afraid to put in as many sections as you need to see and work on the interior of your buildings and your spaces. So by drawing a section that goes through in that direction and looks towards the stairs, I'll pick up the entry as well. And now, if you don't know, the quick way to open a section is to double click on the arrowhead. Right, so there now I can see that I have the curtain wall there on the left, and then this masonry wall, which should have the entry at about this height around here. So I'm going to draw in a level, like I was saying, going left to right. So I'll just zoom out a bit so it's a bit clearer. Left to right, and so on the architecture tab, you have the level tool just above grid, just above grid. Oh, on the quick access toolbar, you've got the button next to the house at the top.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And you do that when it's on the
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay, I'll have to come back and show you. There's a video there that goes through all of it. It says that if you go to playlists, there's one called Thurlow House. Okay, so Okay, so again, make sure you are used to using the level tool because you make levels quite often. And then again here, I want the tag to go on the right hand side, so I'm going to start on the left and then take it over to the right. Don't worry too much if the length isn't exactly what you want, as long as it goes from one side of the building to the other. Oh, it's because I deleted level 3 and it's just gone on to the next one. So. Okay, so now we've got a bit of a problem because these levels, even if I give this a name which is better than level 4, like entry, and just to show you to rename levels, you can simply select them and then click onto the blue text there and then type in your new name, entry, enter, and when it asks you to rename corresponding views, what do you say here? Yes, always say yes to that one. Always rename corresponding views because you always want your plans to have the same name as the level. That's what it's asking you. So here now I've got entry, but notice the order's gone out. So entry's gone to the top because alphabetically that comes first. So you've got a few options there. A simple one is to just put numbers in front of those level names in the order you want. So I want maybe ground floor to be first. So I'm going to right click on that, go to rename and make it 01 ground floor. And again, when you're asked to rename corresponding views, yes. And so this time I've changed the level name of my plan and it's renamed my level. So that's again what you're doing by saying yes to rename views. Now this one, ground floor plan with image, I'm going to rename that and also put 01 because it should be together with the other ground floor. And then, sorry, don't want to open those. Okay, so then entry, I'll rename that. So I'm just right clicking on each plan name. If you missed that, I'm going to rename. And then entry will be 02. Entry. Yes. Level 1. Again, rename, and that will be 03. Level 1. Yes. Level 1 with image will be 03 as well. 03 level 1. And then roof will be 04. Just makes it less confusing when you're looking for your floor plans if they're in the order of the height. Okay, so looking at the interior, has anyone had a look at the stairs and counted the rises? Probably haven't gotten that far yet, but no, okay, so alright, so I'll count them for you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rises to the landing, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rises to the level above, which makes life easy. If they're even, then the landing should be exactly in between. Okay, so then how do we know the heights? Well, we could bring that section in that we have in the other file. So I gave you that. Here we go, floor plan section. Have you been given any indication of the heights in the other class? No. Alright, so I'm tempted just to approximate it. So, like I said, we've got 9 rises. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 rises, and they look like they're not all that high. I was going to say they could even be 150. So let's see what that will be. If we can make them 150, that will be nice and easy. Yeah, that might not be high enough. Okay, so we've got, here we go. What have we got there? Bricks. Bricks are a standard height. So we can count those bricks and know the height. So you've got lots of different ways of working these things out. I know it seems tedious. I've counted bricks on buildings that are 7-8 stories high.
Right.
And you have to do it. When you're designing buildings or working on buildings like that, you've got to work out how big everything is. And you can't send a tape measure up, more than a few stories. So, okay, so I've got to just count these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 courses. So, do you know how high a brick is? Yep, not bad. So yeah, 75 or 76 if you want to be precise. It's actually a tiny bit less than 76. Yeah. So with the mortar, that's 86. And okay, so 86 times, what did I say, 14? Yep. So that gives us 1200. And the tread height that I gave was a little bit more than that, and we've got obviously the slab there and the bit of skirting. So it wasn't far off. I think that's a good measurement. Okay, so lots of different ways to skin a cat, and that is again 150 times 9, 1350. I think that's going to be a good measurement to start with. Okay, so the entry there will make 1350, and then level 1 should be double that. Now it's going to be very low, but that's Seidler. He often did that. So 2700, which means we've got room for a floor structure, but that'll only leave us with 2400 ceilings, which could be what it is. I'm just going to see if you had that other photo that had the bricks here. So I just want to check that. Well, we don't even need to, because here you can see you've got the door. So what's standard door height? Exactly, 2100. And then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, a few bricks above that, which would be about 300 altogether. And so that's 2400. I'd say almost definitely, with a bit of a bulkhead coming down. So it would be less than 2400, which you couldn't do these days. But maybe you would get away with it for that small area. It's really just under the walkway there. But he's got these, double height spaces, which would make up for it anyway. So that sounds about right, 2400, which is the old standard. These days, 2700 is more typical, and a lot of councils will require that. So anyhow, that's fine, and now we can bring this roof level down to match that. So if you select roof, that level, you'll see that you've got a measurement there measured from the ground floor, but I want to measure from level 1. And so by zooming out, I can see there's a dimension over here, and I can just click on that dimension number and type in 2400. Which will give us the final measurement there, 5100. So now things are looking, the proportions are better. It's looking more like what we can see in the photos already. Okay, so then with the maybe in the floor plan, I'm going to select that wall and simply drag it across to the grids. So hopefully you can see how useful those grids are going to be, even before we do the stairs. Yeah. Yep.
And that's on the outside of
the one at the bottom, not that one. The one down the bottom. Oh, you've got to bring the grid down, I think. So it's the wall at the bottom, yeah, and then the wall at the bottom. And then just dragging it across. So when you select the wall, then you'll get a grip there that you can just drag over so that it snaps to your grid. So you should see a grip when you select any wall. There's a a little filled in circle on the corner, and you can just use that to drag the end of it. Right, so now I want to think about the height of that wall, and to see that you can go into the south elevation. And so at the moment the wall's going all the way up to the roof level. Now it's going to have a look at the section here so you can see really how this works. Again, Seidler's been tricky here because he's got the roof there pitching from well below, really, the point on this level where that ceiling height would be measured. Okay, so I'm just going to try and work this out in my head. I would say 21, another 6, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to get you to bring the roof down even more. Again, this is very unusual, but essentially the roof there is pitching from a very low point, and then because it pitches up, it's going to then get the ceiling height that you need on the upper level. So it'll be well below normal head height, but that's okay. So it'll be, again, 20... Sorry, just going back to this photo. Oh yeah, so from there. So yeah, 21 from there, and then another, say, let's say 500. Okay, so I want to have that roof there measured. I could do the maths, but I don't want to do the maths. I just want to get Revit to do it for me. So I'm going to select that level and use the grip on that. So I'm going back to my, again, so my south elevation. Selecting that level, you can drag that bottom end of the dimension to measure from the entry. And now I can type in 2600. There we go. Yeah. So 3950. These walls are going to come up because they'll follow the pitch of the roof, but that's essentially the lowest point of the wall, and then it's going to slope up from there. So you could just copy those values. So the roof level 3950, and that's going to be useful now when I work on this wall here in elevation. Because again, looking at the photo here, you can see that the wall there needs to stop below that roof level. So in properties, I'm going to just go to top offset and make that minus 500. Okay, so that means wherever that roof level goes, the walls are always going to be 500 below it. So you need to select the wall first, and then you'll find in properties, top offset.
Minus 500.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can select the wall there. You've got to select the wall that you've made. Click onto the wall in your drawing, in the one you've drawn. No, in your drawing. Yep. And then, yeah. Okay, but then remember this wall needs to come down a bit further around the entry. And so this is where you need to go to Edit Profile. And use Pick Lines. So the Draw panel should come up once you click on Edit Profile, and then Pick Lines is the last button in that Draw panel. And you can pick the grid. So remember the right hand side of that grid, mine's number 3, is the edge of the entry, and then the bottom of the entry is simply the entry level. So you just need to pick those two things. And now I'm going to use Trim to Corner. So in the Modify panel, Trim to Corner there, and I'm going to pick this line on the side at the bottom, and then the line going across the entry. Trim to Corner. the big one. Okay, and so this line here at the bottom, the line on the edge of the wall, yep, at the bottom. So you need to be on trim to corner, next to rotate. Yep, and then the one above and to the right. Yep, yep, and then choose that line again, and then again the line above and to the right. So this line here, and then the one above and to the right, the vertical line, and then that line again, and then again above and to the right. So basically got an L shape. Okay, so if that's worked for you, tick to finish. I'll finish this video after that and we'll have a look at it, but then we can go into the roof. Yep, sure, I'll have a look at it. Okay, so I'll just tick to finish and then show you in 3D. We basically just cut a section out of the wall, ready for the entry, and so then we can put some more of the main elements in to define that better before we put the curtain walls in to fill that space in. So I want to do the roof before long, but before that I want to look at the stairs, because the stairs really are going to set the height and establish that entry a bit better as well.